officially those are the public hearing dated 11 August, regular meeting dated 11 August, and the hearing dated 26 August.
No problem.
You good, Chuck?
It's on, we're live.
All right, great. Thanks, guys.
Will you come to my house?
I would, but for what I charge.
When my computer's down and the price is,
You'd be surprised. I've been doing it for years. I've been in computer IT.
I have no idea, and I've been in that Brittany school.
When you guys are ready, I'll entertain motions to either approve these all together or individually.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve all three sets of minutes, 8/11 regular meeting, 8/11 hearing, and the 8/26 lit hearing.
I'll second
Seconded by Burl. Motion on the floor by Anton, seconded by Burl to approve all three minutes, sets of minutes. Any further discussion?
Just letting you know, I was here for the first two, but not the last one, so I'll have to go, because of the last one, I'll have to go
Abstain.
abstain.
Okay. Got that? You got that? All right. Just I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Got 5, 0, 1. Old business at this time. Jim, want to come up and
Sure. Good evening, council, everyone. First thing, I'm going to obviously do the same thing, the reports, the numbers and everything. But I do want to just point out, since the last meeting we've had, there's been obviously a tremendous amount of work by the county council, the county commissioners, the auditor's office, and as we go through there, what has been suggested by the county council and executed by the auditor's office, back to the commissioners, it's working. Okay, so there are improvements. We're still not there by December 15th, but this avenue that has been taken, you can see progress and you can see the numbers. So with that preface, every month that you ask me to take a look at out of the fund financial balance, just this is the end result, in essence, the cash balance. As of August 31st, there were 13 funds in the red at a total amount of $1.5 million. 1.5101, 75, and 467. Now, what I like to do in going through here, not all of them, but I would like to set a target date with the permission of the county council, made by motion or something by you later in the meeting. But there's three funds. There's Fund 4017, the Dispatch Center project, roughly in the red of 17,000. There's the Fund 4914, extension in the red of approximately 5,000. And then our 7331 to 4 cents. I'd like to set a target date with your permission of trying to get those three funds resolved by the next meeting. The 4 cent is just trivial. It's just a matter of execution. An electric transfer comes in, it makes it difficult for the auditor's office. We're going to try to get with the State Board of Accounts. Perhaps they'll just say they'll allow us just to take 4 cents over and deposit it. But in whatever method there, would like to get that one resolved. There would have been discussion in prior meetings by the county council terminating Fund 4914. That's the Extension Office Work Study. If that is correct, the ordinance for that can be prepared by the next meeting. The one area of information, though, is how to resolve the the red of $5,050. How that's going to be paid, how you want that taken care of, that would need to be resolved before we extinguish it. We'd rather not have a fund just remain in the red that's not in existence. The dispatch center, the 91111, it's $17,000. Looking at the claims, I know State Board of Accounts can be involved. I've not heard anything back saying that they found the claim. Internal audits would suggest that all the claims were legitimate completely. It's just it was $17,000 more than what the cash balance is. On top of my head, I may say the wrong fund. I'm thinking it's 1235. The PSOP lit, but it's most likely that $17,000 is going to have to come out of that. If all the departments are involved, the extension, dispatch, then auditor, obviously the lit edit, take a look at that. Would like to make a target date to get those three resolved out of the red and not three of those out by the next meeting. So with that, a little bit about the general fund. The general fund on the 31st was in the red of $474,177. That was the 31st. As of today's date, it's $368,534.55. The receipt of revenue has come in for the general fund, so it's roughly about $218,000. But one of the payrolls has already been paid out of that. So in looking at that balance of $368,000, just let's ballpark it there, that's with only one payroll remaining. The auditor's office and commissioners, the last set of bills did direct everything to Lit Ed Riverboat. So that is in operation. So that was roughly bills from about August 15 and then on, 16, 17. So those bills did come out. So a couple just opportunities for the council if you want to consider in your discussions later. If there are already the workman's comp bill and the liability insurance has already come in 2021. The workman's comp completely, the general liability bill comes in segments and quarterly, but I would say the majority of that has already been paid. There are funds, Highway 1176 and EMS 1151, that have been given appropriations for workman's comp, for general liability, and those have not been expended out yet. They've been paid out of the general fund, but they have not then been paid out of those highway. If that's an avenue, if it's something that the funds can handle, 1151 clearly could. There's roughly a significant amount that can be deducted from the general fund, okay? If we take those, that's going to be a significant amount. The other consideration that I would have for you, I went back and there's a worksheet, and I'm just showing this. This is every claim that was paid in August prior to the 15th that could be directed to Lit Edit, to Riverboat, to jail housing, to sheriff reimbursement. I think that the lit, which we'll get into, can handle that. That's $75,000 that can be reduced. If that were true, when I'm talking to you about the workman's comp, insurance, utilities, that would total $160,000. $75,000 worth of claims, at least there would be an opportunity to reduce the gap in the general fund by approximately $238,000. So that right now it's at $368. There's at least a discussion to reduce it by $238,000. In addition to that, and this auditor, the auditor's office, full credit for this, they've taken a look at the dormant funds. They've checked with State Board of Accounts. This would procedurally would need to go, if this is acceptable to the council, would go to the commissioners at their meeting on the 20th. There's an opportunity there to reduce it by another $45,000. So looking at both of these in the 45, there is definitely a pathway to get the general fund in that area that was hoped for by November 30th from 300,000 to zero. We could get in that margin, okay? And I think that's something that's a very important goal for the council and for the county of trying to get that general fund as close to zero on the 30th. So right now, what would be being paid out of the general fund is the payroll. all other bills, all other claims are being redirected to other funds. That is a lot of work for the auditor. Their state board of accounts have said they want probably the more rigorous of the accounting measure for that, so they're having to do that line by line, but they're looking at that. So that's kind of where we stand on the funds. I think 3 of them, with your permission, I think we'll set a deadline for the 15th to get those 3 resolved. General fund is moving in the direction that you want. At this time of year, in the past, in 2020, 2019, you weren't looking at a deficit in these amounts. It was much more. So these are very positive things. So that leads to lit edit. Lit edit of 7332 is your primary vehicle for paying the claims. It's not the only one. This is the paramount importance of getting this next 90 days, from September 13th to roughly December 15th when the settlement comes in. I mean, it's roughly 90 days. This is the key. So one thing that's going to be asked at some point in the meeting, there was an $800,000 appropriation made. As you well know, there's the categories, personal services are in the 10,000 series, supplies in the 20, other services in the 30,000, and capital outlay in the 40,000, the numbers. When this was designed, there was 50,000 appropriation put in personal services, and there was 50,000 put in capital outlay. After watching this in action for the first month, it would make the most sense, and talk to the auditor's office, of transferring, this is not any additional money, this is not a tax increase, it's not taking any money, it's just putting them in the more appropriate categories, nothing more than that. But taking the 50,000 personal services and the 50,000 in capital outlay and put that in other services. Your 30,000, that's where most of the expenses would come in. So that will be at one point ask permission from the county council during the meeting to move those. That would leave $350,000 appropriation in supplies, $450,000 in other services. Now, those are the facts, these are the numbers. Opinion-wise, I would ask the council, perhaps just by this way, I would highly recommend that lit edit does need to be monitored weekly. I would ask that each Friday, it's just one more task and one more burden, but that the lit edit fund, the amounts and everything, to be sent to the county council members, sent to the commissioners, and if you don't mind, myself included. That way we just do an evaluation every week. This is the fund that needs to be monitored. Now, why did I say that? Okay, so lit edit on the 31st had $998,000 in it. The September revenue has already come in. There's only going to be 3 more revenues. It's a fixed amount that comes in. It's $105,628. You have to subtract out for the town of Spencer, the town of Gosport, so it's closer to $83,000. So here's what's going to happen. There was a balance of $998,000 on the 31st. There's going to be 3 more revenues that are going to total, after you subtract out, $249,840. That's how much is going to come in the remainder of the year, once each month. The total then is $1.2 million. That's it. It's a hard cap. There wouldn't be anything that I'm aware of any more money coming in there. That is it. The $900,000 that's in there, in that range, 950, for most of that has been appropriated already. By the time you take the appropriations, remember there's there's 2 different capital outlay, 2 different loan payments, one for Owen County development for roughly about $12,000, I think there's $25,000 left on it, and then there's the $10,417 that comes every month. You have right now about the cash balance and the amount appropriated are fairly close. Definitely close enough for someone that gives you more pessimistic amounts. The $200,000 coming in is the whole cushion. That's it. So we're that close from a county in there. So that's what my recommendation is of monitoring that every Friday. Make sure of the 2 categories right now, it is clearly the 30,000, the other services have much more expenditures than the supplies do right now. That's common, that's what you would expect, but we've got to watch it. I do repeat myself, I know that, so this won't be the first time, but many will say, every dollar counts for every department, everything going. If it's marginally needed, don't buy it. If it is really, really needed, but I can live without, don't buy it. This really has to be a time of the expenditures coming in, really essential. There's a road to get there, but there's, everywhere that you wanna make this fail is going to be possible. There's only gonna be one way to make it work. So I think with the extra monitoring, understanding the cushion, making those two different appropriations, and then monitoring that no less than a weekly basis, that's important. Riverboat of 1191, that has 7 different categories. The main thing in there is the utilities. I would still also recommend, it's one more task to put it on, but I would recommend, at least for the next 4 weeks, doing the same thing with Riverboat. If the Riverboat could also be submitted to the council, commissioners, myself, primarily looking at this area of utilities to make sure that that 145,000 would go in. Right now, there's not been that much taken out of Riverboat. The categories are in good order. Your third fund is jail housing, meals and prisoners. A lot of that has been expended. That's gonna have to be watched. That's what the sheriff had agreed to put 50-50, but there's been expenditures out of that. We'll just have to see how much more comes in. And then the gas, oil, and lube of 60,000, that's right in line. So in that area, total recommendations of highly monitoring, highly looking at that. After Lit Edit is spent and Riverboat is spent, there's not a lot left. So that's why I say that I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm saying it's in the 99% range of trying to find any type of funding. The general account is exactly where you want it. The payroll amount that was subtracted out of that went down. It was 113. Roughly, we were averaging 125 to 127. It's clearly cuts that were made are now demonstrating themselves. So a good pathway. It needs absolute prudent observation all the time. And it is requiring a significant amount of extra effort from the auditor's office of maintaining, all of these and making the transfers. But looking at this possibility of making the payments out of already things appropriated, taking a look at the dormant funds, go ahead and take a look at those August claims. I think you're going to get this in a range that you'll find acceptable with the ultimate goal by November 30th of getting that as low as possible. Final thing, just on the finance, 1,000 things you need to do. It doesn't look like the settlement, at least from the date that was projected, is like December 13. It doesn't appear that obviously 13. So we're going to have kind of that trough area where we're scheduling everything from the 30th. There's going to be one more claim cycle. So we'll have to, as a collective group, take a look at that on how close we get. Last time, I'll say it probably too, if you ask me to bring me back up here for any reason, we constantly the spending. Every dollar, anything, any department, anything they can do. You have a lot of departments, when I say that, I don't want to sound like, you have a lot of departments that in August spent nothing besides their payroll. Nothing, nothing came in at all. So there's a tremendous amount of work being done by Ed. You're having a lot of departments working with the cuts. This is kind of the ballpark, I would say, cliche-wise. Clearly not out of the woods, clearly have to monitor every dollar, but I think there is a pathway to success here by the 30th based on all the hard work that the council, commissioners, and auditors office has done.
And yourself.
Matt?
Okay, so let me just go through a few things before we end this, Jim. First of all, Madam Auditor, as far as Lit and Riverboat, you good with sending out that report? Okay. So 911 dispatch, extension office work study, and the Lit public safety, the 4-cent one. Does anyone want to make a motion that we bring those back next meeting?
Just your next regular meeting, I think would give time for the dispatch to verify what they want to do, get with the extension, and then with the auditor. But I think the next 4 weeks would be plenty of time.
Okay, to zero out those accounts. We got a motion on the floor. And seconded by Nick. Motion on the floor by Chuck, seconded by Nick. Any further discussion on that?
So should we not be advertising though where to spend the money to cover those balances?
Well, I didn't know if that was gonna happen the next time, or if.
I would go ahead and advertise.
The 4017 has already been advertised. She
Okay.
brought that to you guys back in March or somewhere earlier. We just have not entered it in the DLGF or the gateway system, so that one can be done tomorrow if you guys vote on it, because it did go through the public hearing and the additional appropriation process.
I'll make an amendment to authorize the auditor to publish the ones required as for public
Okay.
advertising. Thank you.
And would you accept that in the amount of 17,177.39 and 4 cents?
We're gonna have to vote on the amendment first or something else.
Second.
All right, we're gonna vote on the amendment before we vote on the
So what
advertisement.
so what's the fund source in your motion?
Lit.
Lit, right?
So the dispatch, it looks like no brainer. It seems like that would be the most appropriate if I memorize the right fund. It's 1235, the PSA lit. The other one of the 40 for the extension, that's more of where it's gotta be paid. Where do you want that to come from?
4017 was just from the cash balance.
So 1235 for the 17,177.39. Is that correct?
1235.
And the 4 cents,
Thing with the 4 cents is that was the amount that we received the electronic funds transfer from the state for. That was what was received in. They're saying originally just to reduce the next deposit, but you can't do that. The treasurer's office has to deposit in what's there. So they've either gotta let us put the 4 cents in there from somewhere, and it has to come from a fund. We can't just hand them 4 cents.
right, so what fund,
Well, rainy day still has like $1,400 in it,
alright,
so
so rainy day for the
you
4
could
cents.
expend that completely, put the rest towards work study as a starter. And then we'd have to decide where to come up with the rest.
Okay, so rainy day for work study as well. You want to draw your?
I will.
Okay.
Let's redo it.
Okay.
Let's make a new motion. Motion. Authorize the auditor to place in public advertisement the transfers for the following funds from lit in 1235. Am I doing this right? Because I'm doing this from memory. 1235-4.
It's cash for $17,177.39.
Thank you very much, that number she said. And the other account, which was, what was the name of that one? No, it was not. Rainy day, from rainy day.
Mhm.
And then there was one more thing.
Then there's
What was the last thing?
Extension work study.
yeah.
Work studies. And that was coming out of, where were you taking that from?
I'd take some of it out of your rainy day to zero that.
Okay, so it's going to come out of rainy day to zero that. And then the other fund would be,
That's the part then we're looking at is, would Riverboat be sufficient then
Riverboat
for
would
that
be good.
$3,000?
Riverboat would work.
And Riverboat.
Yeah.
Okay. Madam Auditor, are you good?
Got it.
Okay, do I hear a second?
That's it.
Seconded by Nick. Further discussion?
Just a quick question, so is that to advertise the 17,000, because I thought it was already advertised.
Yours is done. Yeah,
Okay, just making sure that that'll
Yep.
finally be
think we were just reaffirming, just for the record, since it's been a while.
Okay, anything else? Call for a vote, all those in favor? 6-0. Okay, what other action needs to be taken?
This is just more of a consensus, just does the council have any objection of considering paying what I would call the August claims from August 1st to roughly August 15th in the next claim cycle docket? That would mean a change of 75,000, it'd have to go on the docket, and put in there. I think it would cover that, but if you're acceptable to that would reduce the general fund by another $75,551.15, if there's any objection to that.
Where's it gonna come out again?
These are coming directly out of the lit edit, it'd be out of contract services or supplies.
No objection.
Anything else?
Want to mention the sheriff's retirement fund.
Oh, sure, so these are the things that are coming up, so appreciate it. So the accounting was done to the penny. The sheriff's retirement fund was approved and come out of lit edit. It was voted on, the claim went through, and it's fine, but here are the things that are coming up. The sheriff took money out of one of his own funds to pay for it. Then there was a certain amount from lit edit, roughly in the ballpark of 180,000. There was then 14,000, I'm rounding these off, but it's 14,000 that was still left in the general fund appropriation. The problem was in the appropriation of that 14,000, there's no money in the general fund. So then when the claim came due, 194,000 was then deducted out of lit edit. It's a totally legitimate claim, it's totally must be paid statutorily, it's totally been approved. But what I'm saying is as we work through all of this, here's a concrete example that $14,000 is going to come out of the lit edit. That was an unexpected bottom line expense. It wasn't the amount. So it's all been done, but that's what I'm just trying to remind or suggest to everyone. When you're looking at it and you say, hey, look, but there's still a $100,000 cushion here, or there's a $50,000 cushion. These type of events are occurring. Totally made sense at that particular time to pay it out of that general. The problem is, at this particular time, there's no cash in there. So these just, all I'm asking is just to be aware, if we're talking about ever getting things to zero, that may not be the best place to be.
Can I ask a technical question? Do you think it'd be a good idea if, when we can find out about these items, like we just found out, would it be good if we just make a note or a motion saying it's been made or anything? I mean, are we required to acknowledge this outside of here?
I don't know if there'd be the exact, I apologize, I don't know if it's exact, but your point is beyond well taken. That this is the exact information that everyone on the county council needs to know. Every type of these situations that come up, there needs to be that information provided to you. We thought it was going to be whatever, it wasn't, and here is the amount, 100%. So for anything that I find, I will be bringing that. I don't think there's any about the auditor the same way, but I do think that's going to be part of what's going to come your way. October, November, December meetings, here are any of those events.
Then I'd like to ask you to put that down on a piece of paper.
Okay.
And that it goes on the agenda and that this body approve of it post.
That's totally fine. I'll
Because
start
the public
that.
needs to be aware of this as well.
No, I'm totally agreeing. I can start that at the next meeting rotation. I'll add that on.
So essentially, Chuck, what you're saying is for the record at our next meeting,
Mhm.
you want to make sure that he documents the 14,000
Exactly.
that was already been paid and processed.
Yeah, well, anything that
Just to
he
redo that.
just said is going to happen, it's going to have to happen legally because it has to be paid as presented to the state and so forth. That's fine, go ahead and do that. But when you bring it to us in a paper form that we can say, okay, we acknowledge that this occurred and we are aware of it and it can be put out for the public. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's not a problem at all. We can start that at the next meeting. Wanda, anything else to make? So that's kind of a synopsis of kind of where we were at.
Thank you, sir. Jim, do you or Sheila have anything else under old business?
Budget hearings.
Yeah, just budget, I told them 2 minutes. So the AARP, that's been deposited, that's already been, and that's the Affordable Rescue Plan Act, that money's in the bank. I will tell you one thing that I did double check. And for as far as infrastructure, it cannot be taken directly out of its account and applied directly to the roads. That is not considered permissible use. So we cannot, as a county, take 1 million out of that and apply it directly to the roads. There may be other avenues as far as lost revenue, but that is not one of the possibilities. And the state did respond back as far as on the approved tax. They do have all the proper documentation. They know the auditor that supplied all of that and sent their letter that they have received that.
And we will receive the updated tax amounts the first week of October.
And as far as budget review, the submission and such, what do you have, Sheila?
On the budget hearing, that is just, if you wanna go through all the line items for the budgets, that it was tabled for your insurance and utilities and different things. So we can go through those, or if you wanna do everything and come back to them, it's up to you guys. But, I mean, we need to review the 2022 budgets that you have to date, because you need to set a public hearing date, as well as they have to be in no later than November the 1st. You're looking at a 15-day time by the time we get the paper and the 5-day advertisement, pre-advertisement, plus the hearing date and everything. If you could have a meeting on September the 28th for a public hearing for the budgets, if you get far enough this evening, you could officially adopt them at the October 12th meeting, and then they would be submitted to the state, and you would be done until we hear back from the state later in the year.
Right, I mean, we've done it in the past where we've had the public hearing prior to the meeting itself, we would not do that.
The public has 7 days to respond after a public hearing. It's my understanding that you have to have it, and they have a time period to respond from the actual hearing itself and the adoption. I will double check that. If that's the case, then we can use October the 12th as both dates.
Yeah, to be honest, I would recommend that we have the final adoption hearing as a second meeting in October, specifically for that purpose. And then work backward using part of our regular meeting in October to finalize the numbers. And then backtrack further to September 28th to have another workshop on the numbers. And the reason why I say that is because the whole workers' comp liability insurance thing is outrageously complicated. And we're not in a position to do anything with those numbers, and we probably won't be on the 28th of this month. Very close on all the benefits related costs, health insurance, dental, vision. We probably will have those numbers for the 28th. And then in lieu of the adjustments we did with revenue a couple weeks ago, we're gonna have to, if the council decides, we're gonna have to relocate the entire sheriff's budget, and there's other things we need to be moving numbers around that I just don't think we're gonna be in a position to complete by our October meeting. So that's kind of why
I have no doubt, okay, that sounds great to me, but, she already said she has to have those numbers in on the 1st. So if we push it into October even farther, we're making it more difficult on her. How about we do the public hearing on the 28th, followed by a meeting, okay, with what you suggested about doing our numbers for a review, making sure everything's okay, and then approving it on October 12th, so that we give her enough time to get all the numbers in correctly and up to gateway.
Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna solve the challenge. And quite frankly, in terms of her numbers, by the time she gets.
The challenge is we have to have a public hearing, and then we have to do the numbers review, right?
Well, you have to do the numbers review before the hearing. we should get all the numbers in order before we have that final adoption.
Are you opposed to the September 28th workshop?
No, I'm not at all. I'm not opposed to September 20th. I just don't want to push this any farther into October so that we don't have any issues with getting things put into gateway. You said November 1st is when it has to be in. Well, I don't want to, if we have October 12th is our usual meeting or as our set meeting, that gives her 17 days. Well, if we have a problem and we set a second meeting, that means we'll have to be back here in 2 days. All I'm saying is let's push it up a little bit farther. One of them could be pushed up a little farther. How about we do our numbers meeting and then have the public hearing right thereafter? Killing two birds on the same day, I mean, it's not.
I think that your pre-work is gonna be much more demanding than the post-hearing work, to be honest, Chuck. And that's why I think the auditor's office, it's okay to have it later in October, because most of the numbers will be done. They'll just have a few final numbers to submit. It's the work between now and then that's gonna be most critical. I mean,
To have
correct me if I'm
exact
wrong.
numbers.
Yeah.
And we can pre-enter everything, we just don't upload them until the final vote is 7-0, so we
Did you
can.
say in your initial statement that you, by 15 days prior to that, we had to do numbers or something?
No, you have, for the newspaper and enough time to
Okay,
advertise for a public hearing, they want 5 days pre-notice. So I need that 5 days to get it to them, to have a meeting and give the 10-day official notice. So you're looking at 15 days that's needed, so that the public, official 10-day public notice prior to your meeting is out there.
okay, I make a motion, we have a numbers hearing on September 28th, 7 PM here at the courthouse.
Okay.
That we have a public hearing prior to our October 12th meeting, 1 hour per 4 at 6 PM. Once that's done, we do a regular meeting with no discussion further on that public hearing. And then we have a subsequent meeting for finalization and approval on October, let's see, that would be Monday, 17th, so that would be, what, 7 days later, so 22nd? Or, I'm sorry, 19th?
19th's a Tuesday.
Does that make sense? Everybody following along?
So September the 28th was on a Tuesday, or did you really mean Monday the 27th for that meeting?
Somebody said 28th, that's why I glommed onto that. If you would prefer the 27th, that'd be fine, I'll be happy to change
How
it.
about
Because the
Advertising.
meeting, motion's not.
There's the 15th.
So which day would be better for you, Sheila?
It has to be the 28th
Yeah,
to
whatever
give
that
us
works.
our.
28th, then the 28th,
Okay.
okay? So
So
28th,
September 28th,
public hearing prior to the meeting on
12 October,
12 October, and then the final adoption.
19 October at 7.
19th at 7 here.
October 12th at 6 PM, and the 28th at 7 PM.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah, I think that, is that good for you guys? Okay.
So
Alright.
12 to 6 PM then?
Yes. I'll second that. All right, any further discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. Sheila, anything else on your end? All right, we'll move on to Jennings Township. Come on up, Ms. Nichols, please.
First of all, you'll have to know that your auditor has had a lot to deal with in dealing with the Department of Local Government Finance, because the person that we dealt with
Andy.
for the last 4 years
I'm sorry.
resigned this last week.
1 second. I'll open the public hearing at this time. Go ahead.
Yes, your auditor has had a difficult week or two because Heather Whitman, our Department of Local Government Finance liaison, quit because they gave her too much work. So Linda's had to deal with a whole new person this last week, and as a vote aye. The township does exactly the same thing that the county does, actually. But at any rate, a mistake was made in the publication of this meeting. It says that I was coming in to ask for an increase in my budget, which is absolutely not true. I would not come before the board and ask for more money when we have no money. So my budget remains the same size. And the reason I'm here is because I have 2 firemen on my board, and they can, according to the state, they cannot vote on the budget. So I'm here to ask for an approval on my new budget, which is exactly like last year. And like you, I'm watching every penny because we don't know what's coming the year after, so.
I'd like to ask the auditor, what number of resolution is this gonna be? Don't worry, I'll be changing the word.
First of all, Heather wrote that. Andy, the number's on top of your signature one over there.
It's right here. It's resolution 2021-024.
Okay, are we ready for this? Or somebody got something to say before we go? Yes, no?
You can go ahead. Did
Okay.
you take the?
Resolution, I make a motion, we adopt resolution 2021-024, resolution granting petition of Jennings Township requesting an increase in, no, sorry.
Not in.
Stop, I stopped myself. I said I was gonna change it. A resolution to approve the budget of Jennings Township. Whereas the executive of Jennings Township, Owen County, Indiana, has provided us with an approved budget of Jennings Township, and whereas the county council has reviewed the said budget and conducted a public hearing regarding the same, after all publications of notice, let it be resolved, the Owen County Council, in accordance with IC 36-123 as established in the Indiana State effective 1/2022, the budget of Jennings Township, Owen County, Indiana, is approved. Adopted this 13th day of September 2021. And I think that IC number needs to be changed, because I think that's not correct, but that needs to be looked into, please.
We received this letter from DLGF, who sent us this to be advertised.
No, that's fine, I changed it.
It is extremely difficult to change from one person to the other at this date with all.
Then let me rephrase the second, let me rephrase the third paragraph. Can I do that? Now therefore, let it be resolved by the Owen County Council that we adopt and approve the budget for Jennings Township as established on 13th day of September 2021. Sorry, my tongue hit a speed bump.
Motion on the floor by Chuck. I hear a second.
This is something we've been having to do for years.
Any questions from anyone
Well, my
regarding,
one fireman's 90, so.
any questions
But I
from
love it.
anyone regarding the budget of Jennings Township, trustee?
Get the total budget amount.
What's the total budget amount?
37,673.
Thank you.
You wanna add that into your motion, and would you
Oh,
accept
yeah.
it?
Because it's, yeah, well, for the motion, yes, because we're approving 36,700 and what,
36,673.
that number, 673.
37,673.
Are you good, Madam Auditor?
36 or 37?
It says 37.
673.
673.
It's very fuzzy, I can tell you that. You need anything else, Sheila? Alright. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. At this time, I'll close the public hearing. I'm gonna pass this around, if you'd all sign it, and Mark, yay.
Is that the one that's currently written? You can't sign that one because it's not correct. You can sign it at the next one.
How do you wanna do that, Sheila?
I can get a hold of the new lady and have her give us a correct copy and just do signatures. You approved it, so that's all we need for budgeting purposes.
So you want the signature page on it?
Well,
I
Yes.
like the signatures because they expect me to upload it within 3 days.
Okay. But they know that they are also aware that you're not asking for a tax.
I showed this to Heather, who came, Heather who lived, came to my house and picked out 2 days later, and I showed her the case. And she said, just read it.
Okay, good? All right, at this time, Marcy, I'll go ahead and give you the floor. You're going to discuss the Cook housing discussion.
Ron Walker from the Cook is going to
He's here.
You need to
I
sign
just
this.
didn't know if you wanted to say anything up front or not. Hi, Ron.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
over there that night.
Can I stand over here?
Oh, that's not your.
Okay, great, thank you. And I brought some
You don't like
handouts.
being on camera?
Where is it?
Right there.
Okay. Do you want me to turn that way?
No, I'm just asking.
Okay. First of all, thanks for the opportunity to be here and talk to you. And that is a very full agenda, so I want to be respectful of your time and we don't go on too long. I want to talk a little bit about what we are hoping and trying to do here in Owen County and take your questions and do my best to answer them as fully as I can. In short, what we as in Cook are hoping to do is build workforce housing in Owen County. We are focused right now on property along Texas Pike, just north and a little west of here. Why are we wanting to do that here? Some of it is really due to your own work. And some of it is due to our need as a large employer. Your own work is because you guys have made great strides already in identifying housing as an economic development priority, putting forth quality of place effort, supporting connectivity of trails and sidewalks, and really just kind of putting yourself out there as a group that wants to get some things done. And we're looking throughout South Central Indiana to do housing. We're hoping to build up to 300 homes in the next few years. And this is really the first place we're starting outside of French Lick, where we are actually just building 2 homes right now as a kind of a pilot, because employment is it's challenging there, and there is no new construction and not many places for our employees at the resorts to live. So we're building a couple houses in-house with our own staff to test and see how well we can do this and how inexpensively they can be made. So with that, we're looking for help to do this, because to build houses in a range that we're hoping to do, and we really want principal and interest payments to be really close to $600 for people who are buying these homes. We're trying to hit folks really in our company who probably rent, may not know they can afford a home, probably may not have ever bought one, may not know what it takes to do so, and help them get into a home. It'll stabilize your population, which we recognize has declined. It'll help stabilize our workforce and help build that American dream for many families when that is becoming further and further out of reach for many, many people. We want to target that. It's something that we believe is the right thing to do. And we don't intend just to do it here. We intend to copy this and do it in other places. So, and I'm going quickly, obviously, because I've seen your agenda. But what we wanna do is build a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. Our model is around 1,450 square feet. It will also include a 2-car garage. I've got a handout for all of you, and it has it's kind of a hard to read floor plan by the time we scanned it onto an 8.5 by 11. But that's what our vision is. And to do that not only requires that we get site costs as low as possible so we can get the homes built in this range, and that's where we come to you for help. But it also requires that we work with banks, and we believe the USDA to bring mortgage programs to the people who are going to apply. The USDA has a few programs, some of which are no deposit down, and some are a little bit of deposit, but 1% interest rates, and up to 33, and in some cases 38 years term. We're really trying to move fast on that because there are indications at the federal level that interest rates could go up, and all of that affects how these homes are affordable to families. Of course, many things, this is kind of a crazy time to be trying to do this if you've paid attention to building materials and construction costs. Not just the raw costs, but the timelines and such, but we can't really help that. The need is now. And we've identified a property in town, we're negotiating with the owner, we are doing the work on hydraulics, the hydrology, we're engaged with engineers. We're doing all of our due diligence in the hopes of purchasing this, applying for a rezone. That application is in the works right now, I think with the goal of it being submitted by this Friday. And to be a residential development is agricultural. And to get, obviously I think you're probably expecting that we will ask for your assistance, and we do intend to do that. I'll ask tonight. I can stop now, sir.
What kind of assistance do you think we can give you?
Well,
Or you're asking for directly? I mean, there's brass tacks.
brass tacks, infrastructure funds to cover sewer, extension to and into the property as much as you can provide. And if there are costs beyond that for sewer, we would look to other sources like the state revolving fund and see what else we can do to get it done.
Well, are you going to put that in the town or the county? Or are you gonna leave it to county?
Well, it's in the county now.
Yeah,
So
no, with the city sewer and stuff's in town, I just wondered.
this would be an extension of the town of Spencer Sewer, is what we anticipate.
Have you went to them to talk to them about it?
I've talked with the sewer superintendent and others about extending. We've got a draft, I guess, cost estimate from HWC and some alternatives here. It's in the packet I can give to you. But what our brass tacks is really American Rescue Funds. If you've got the dedicated infrastructure, we believe this is a project that will pay dividends for you. We're hoping to get between 80 and 90 homes in that area. We'd like to do the density to be no greater than 3 per acre. Keep those still good so they have a front yard and a backyard. Of course, there's roads in there and there's some drainage areas because of the topography. So we can't build everything, but that's our goal. So.
Just a little background. The American Rescue Plan has, of course, a provision for infrastructure. We had $2 million that we received in probably the end of July, or is that about that time? And so we've had, clearly, there's going to be, we're going to be trying to receive some of that funding for money that we've already spent this past year through COVID. But I think with the help of Marcy, there's a desire to put this in and request any funding that's available to the county to be able to help with it if possible, correct? And Jim, do you have any comments on this, based on, I know that this plan is really in tandem with the commissioners, the ARA money, so.
No, just at some point there, first of all, there would have to be, we have a plan established, which had nothing to do with what Cook's presentation. Then it would go to the commissioners as far as an approval of this, A, B, or C, whatever the plan would be. It comes back to the county council for an appropriation. The key point is, an infrastructure as far as sewer and broadband clearly falls in there. However, the caveat is, anything that's out of bounds, anything that's there, the county then would be required to pay that back, to reimburse everything. So it is truly one of these things that has to be perfect on whatever the money is for.
And Jim, are we gonna have, like some kind of a committee or collaboration with some of the key stakeholders? And I'm talking a little more broadly than just like wastewater and sewer, but like the town of Spencer does have their own ARP money, and I know that they wanna partner with the county on some key issues. There might be some leveraging for additional grant money and kind of expanding how far each of those dollars goes. Obviously, internally, it's gonna take cooperation between the council and the commissioners. So is there gonna be some kind of a formal approach to this?
Okay, I don't wanna make an assumption, I know it's wrong, but I would say yes, because everything you said is absolutely correct. I think that what has happened with that is, since it does not have to be spent for you're talking 26, 28, I mean, it's that far out, that I think based on obviously the budget, other areas, it's kind of been the approach, get that money, put it in the bank, and then all of those things can happen. But I would assume you're probably looking at, probably after November, but all of those make total sense. But the thing right now is get the money, it's secure, no one's touching it, and then it would allow for the time to do what you were talking about.
So, we will, and is that something that you think will be established in a commissioner meeting?
I would think so, because there's two parts to it. One, there needs to be then in essence, a formal plan, and that has not been done. And I think that would require, obviously, a number of people for input, just to have kind of parameters. Is it broadband? Is it sewer? Is it revenue? Is it a combination? And then it could be much more than that, but I don't know that one person would be making that decision. It would seem to me make sense, whether it's a formal committee, whether, however it's been designed. Then there would be a plan, and at that point, then there would be presentations from the commissioners first, and then to the county council. But I'm really going to say, I think we're at step A, and nowhere near B, C, D, or E right now. It's just simply money in the bank. That's it.
Ron, there will be more to follow on this. Okay.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for coming. And, do you have any more questions of us?
No, I don't think so. We want to be as transparent as we can with this. We're trying to do the right thing. It's not a real estate investment for us. We plan to help develop. As they sell, we put more money back in to build more. That is it. And we've surveyed our employees. We believe the market is there for Owen County workers and residents to buy these homes, and that's what we're going for. So, thanks for your time.
Do you have like a time frame on this, or like what your projected time frame would be to get this started?
Well, I'm getting pushed to do it quickly because we're worried that the market and climate will change. But the reality is it takes some time. And we just heard a moment ago the time that's going to be needed there. So we'll be there. I mean, we're not ready yet either. I've got estimates, but as the longer it takes, the better estimates we get, the quotes we get. We finalize our lot and subdivision, and we come to you with hard numbers and say, here's what we want to do, here's what can help us do it, and hopefully we can work hand in hand.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As far as timeline goes, does the county council sees a timeline to create this process so that
Well,
others can
that's,
kind of hear their timelines?
that's why I asked the question, because really, I mean, as much as I want to say it's the county council, it's more of a county executive decision to whether or not they want to pursue something with this. And then we, again, like Anton said, I think the collaboration between maybe a committee, you know, to see kind of where we're at, maybe what other things it will be used for, and then, you know, working together on this project would be a good thing. Is that kind of what you're thinking, Jim? I mean,
Well,
isn't this?
Not speaking for the commission, if you're looking, I can say these things are certain. It is not gonna happen at the September 20th, that is not a possibility. I think there may be some, you know, it can be brought up in a discussion, kind of what the area plan is, but I mean, I don't see this occurring in the next couple of meetings. Perhaps by November, I'd say is optimistically earliest, and I think there's also, I mean, based on different perspectives, it is not a rush, I mean, from a deadline to spend that money. There could be a rush, hey, here's a market, or here's a plan, we need it now. But from a county's perspective, or looking the other way, there's no immediacy of saying you must have this money taken care of by the end of 2021. It's actually not that at all. The other part too, and waiver, is just that there's still regulations coming down, that it appears it's still hundreds of pages of trying to do that. And I think that the ultimate concern, if you're asking me, that I have in the county is to make sure that it's in bounds. The last thing that this county needs is anything that's paid outside of the parameters of that fund that's got to be paid back. That has to be one of the ultimates that can happen. Not saying that this even is close to that, but those, I just think time-wise, I don't see that the commissioners are ready to act on this until on the 20th, perhaps something later in the early winter, maybe beginning of 2022.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think Greg's tied up if you want to move your sheriff.
What's that?
Greg's tied up, so.
Okay, Greg is outside, so I'm gonna tell you, Sheriff, you wanna, an update you wanna give? Your update?
So my update is, I'm just waiting to see where things fall with the public safety guys about how much of my budget. If it's gonna be taken out of that, but I don't think it's gonna be.
General fund or sheriff?
Yes, yes.
Alright, and you heard the timeline earlier?
Yes, I got the dates and stuff.
Okay. Hello.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This evening I'm here for a couple of reasons. I just know the regular update. Right now, I'm here to mostly talk about bridges tonight here in front of you, so I need to inform you that right now Owen County has 5 bridges closed. The Kelly Road Bridge is scheduled to be open within about 10 days.
We see your signs, please put the sign down, I understand. Put the sign down.
Within about 10 days. And that bridge is being funded partially through community crossings money. The Server Road Bridge, we have ordered the steel. The steel is at the shop. We are going to redeck and work on that bridge ourselves. We expect it to be open somewhere in the next 4 weeks. The Dunn Road Bridge needs some extensive abutment work. It was damaged during the flood. Prior to that, that bridge stayed closed for a long period of time and had a runaround. So what we did was we built a runaround around the bridge again. It has a dry creek bed, and we're using that to keep Dunn Road functional. The other is the bridge on White Road between State Road 43 and Little Fox Road. And it also needs abutment work. The bridge on Dunn.
You say it needed abutment
work. And then I had Bridge 16, which is on Rocky Hill Road, closed. It has had a deck failure. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I have several people here from the public tonight. In regard to Bridge 16, the commissioners called Bridge 16 an emergency. These are the facts. My 1135 fund, which is my bridge fund, looks pretty good right now, but that money, and you could ask the attorney, is expended. It needs to go to pay for the Kelly Road Bridge, which we're gonna need to write a check within the next pay cycle, but we have the money to do that. It's been a plan for a long time. Since 16 was called an emergency, the commissioners had me get quotes. Commissioner Burton is out of town, but I don't have the other two commissioners here with me tonight. But I was asked to come before this council in regard to the funds for that bridge. Now, I have told several of the citizens, and there's several are sitting here tonight, that I believe there was no money to fix the bridge, but they have indicated they've talked to members of this board, and they wanted to be here tonight while I presented that. The cost to redeck the bridge, $79,135. And that is a solid price from CLR.
Now, during the commissioner meeting, there was some talk about trucking being added to a new quote. Is that number the new solid number?
That is a solid number, yes.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
What renders the bridge currently unusable or makes it an emergency?
Commissioners called an emergency. Anytime that I have a bridge that has to be closed, the commissioners have to deem it an emergency and close the bridge.
What exactly was the emergency?
It has, it's got places that it's got broken deck. The deck of the bridge is broken up, yes.
So is that a cement deck or an iron gird?
It is a cement deck,
It is a cement deck.
yes.
On
How
top
long
of
has that
cement
been?
abutments or?
No,
iron
it's on top,
abutments? Sorry?
it's on top of steel,
It's on top of steel?
Yes.
So we have cement on top of steel.
yes,
The steel infrastructure underneath it is okay,
yes.
but the deck itself
The deck is bad,
is bad.
yes.
And do we have like an estimation of how long that would last? Or how fast by state requirements, social requirements, DOT requirements that would be indicating towards us that we would have to repair quicker?
I guess what he's saying is, if you don't mind.
Please.
Wait, I'm not
there-
understanding.
So there's still an existing structure,
There is,
but
yes,
you've got to redeck it. So
yes.
I guess how much mileage versus a all-new thing?
No,
what he's
I'm
saying.
looking for an actual law or reference to a DOT travel or a state Indiana bridge requirement travel, which says this bridge requires repair within this amount of time, or repair as in immediate right now, outside of what the commissioners have said.
There's nothing that tells me I have to rebuild that bridge in a certain time. Nothing, no state requirements, no federal requirements. The only requirement that I have, and I know Phil's raising his hand, but the requirement that I have, if it's unsafe, is to close the bridge and report it to the proper authorities through NDOT, and that's what has been done.
How did you determine it was unsafe?
The county has United Consulting on contract. When we found the deck was broken up on the bridge, United Consulting was called. The engineers came out and looked at the bridge and said it needed to be closed.
So therefore, we've actually had some authority outside of the county evaluate it and say this needs to be repaired.
That is correct. I'm sorry, I wasn't understanding.
That's kind of what I was looking for. It's
Right.
my fault. I didn't word it correctly.
And all the other bridges that I'm speaking to you about tonight that I told you were closed have been through the same process.
Thank you.
All five of them.
My fault. I worded it poorly.
No.
My fault.
How long has that bridge been there?
I'm sorry, I cannot tell you that.
We'll wait for 40s, early 50s, I believe. It's got a big hole in it, it's all the way through. It's a big hole.
I know, but I just wondered how long the bridge has been.
Now, I did bring a bridge book with me, and I apologize for that tonight. It is an older bridge. I will tell you, on top of the 5 bridges that I just told you were closed, none of those were on my fracture critical list, which is meaning they are in dire need of repair, none of them. This all just occurred, the bridges passed an inspection. We also have 5 bridges that are fracture critical. Now, they remain open, but they remain open with lowered weight standards. But they're going to need some attention at some point in time. And the only bridge that we built, since I've been as superintendent, I built the 2 bridges at Vilas because the flood, we had another flash flood, it took both bridges out and they were required to be rebuilt. So those were rebuilt. And then Kelly Road Bridge, those are the only 3. And we're supposed to be on the schedule to build 2 a year.
Bill wanted to comment, is that okay?
We widened that bridge in the late 80s, early 90s. We added 2 foot on both sides of that bridge. And I think it was originally built in the 70s, 60s or 70s. The beams are in good shape. The abutments are in good shape. My boss, which is an engineer, he said it's good for another 30 or 40 years.
But it needs flooring.
The floor is bad.
Did you have a study on that road before it's traffic?
Pardon?
Did you do a study on that road, that bridge, study of that road before it's traffic?
No, I haven't had time to do that. Regardless of study, we do a study on the road, we need, to put counters out, et cetera. We haven't done that on that road.
Where, I mean, given the county's current situation, where do you want us to pull the state grant out of?
Ladies and gentlemen, and you can ask this gentleman right here. I told him I didn't have the money to build the bridge. He can speak, but I mean, he's been kind of the driving force behind that. He spoke to the commissioners, but he's certain that he has spoke to someone that says there's money to build that bridge. So he's here tonight in front of this council, and that's, we're presenting that.
Well, the only reason I'm saying this, I'm not currently aware that we have a grant that we can do this with. Number 2, question I would have for you, is if we have 5 bridges on the critical list which have weight reduction ability so that they can continue being open, and this one not also have weight reduction on them?
It cannot, it has bad. This truly has bad deck, it is an old deck, no deck won't stand.
That's why I'm asking the questions, don't get us.
No, they're
Okay, I got you.
What's the Kelly Road obligation?
211,000.
211? And what is the projected amount of the settlement in December for the bridge fund? Do we have a rough idea on that?
I get about 435 into that a year.
Total?
Total.
Yeah.
That's a good projection, right? About 435 in that, so it'd be half that a year.
And usually the spring settlement's bigger than the.
That is correct.
The projection for 22 is 412 to 427. And how much of that do you have obligated for on projects for next year?
I have another bridge, the Wasatch Lake Bridge, we're not under any contract, but that's the Wasatch Lake Road Bridge. Been supposedly to build it for the last 3 years, it's fracture critical. And then, of course, the bridges that I have to do the repair. I'm gonna tell you what, guys, I don't know if once you build a bridge and you make the repairs to the other ones, it's all gonna be obligated, pretty close.
I assumed it was, did you have an amount already that was already projected?
I do not know.
Yeah, because you gotta remember in 22, that first settlement doesn't come till June.
No.
So whatever we get in December is gonna be pretty much it through the spring.
And there really
Wasatch
will
Lake, I
be
can tell you,
some-
Wasatch Lake Road Bridge will be somewhere around the $200,000 mark. I can't tell you that.
You're talking about the one just next to,
Yes.
Yeah.
The bridges that are in need of repair, we've got quotes from some of them up into the neighborhood, $35,000 to $60,000 to repair. Some of that takes time, but we do have the talent at the highway department. That, like redecking the Serber Road Bridge, but ladies and gentlemen, it takes time. Look, I think you heard at the last commissioners meeting, I had to close down because of COVID. I didn't have any office staff. I do have one of those people back. I expect to be pretty decent starting tomorrow, but I know I'm still gonna have 4 people gone. I had a truck driver quit today. I lost a laborer last week. So
Yeah.
it takes time to get these things done with the staff that I have.
I got a question. The public safety tax has been passed, and to be honest with you, as a sheriff, driving around the county on these bridges and stuff, whether the public likes, the public don't like it or not, I know how important Rocky Hill Bridge is to us, to the ambulance in Putnam County when they're coming to assist us. It's critical for us. My question is, you got public safety tax money, that's gonna be generated. Bridges can be paid out of public safety tax. I know we need a jail, we need all that kind of stuff. Folks, I'll tell you right now, with the bridge in front of the jail project right now, because 2 minutes to get to somebody's house to save their life is 2 minutes. Long way around. So if that could be, if that could be, I know, correct me if I'm wrong, don't take this time, I know we start drawing in October, but we don't get paid until January on this. And I'm sure Greg has reached out to his contractors and stuff like that. If we could get the bridge fixed and not have to pay them till January, you're gonna get 200-some thousand plus a
Did
month.
you guys go with CLR?
Well, the commissioners have to make that final decision, but what the commissioners decided to do, we had 2 companies give us quotes. They really, when you looked at them, apples to apples, one company, bid with us providing stone and us providing the trucking, et cetera. The other company bid the same. I have spoken to both of them. I don't have E3 Bridges back in writing, but I have CLR's back in writing. CLR said that they would do all for the same price that they originally said that they would do with us providing the materials and the trucking. Still has to go back in front of the commissioners because it has to be re-quoted. But I was asked to come to you tonight by the commissioners and give you a ballpark figure. Well, I do know that CLR, the price that I give you is a CLR figure that they said that they could live with, so I expect it to be that or lower.
Don't you think it would work to go ahead and, based on the financing option that might be available, to go ahead and, use Coombe Bridge and then shore up the money whenever we, next year, if needed?
I had no Coombe Bridge this year because it's obligated.
Right, but what I'm saying is there will be a little come in December, right?
That is correct, but what I guess I'm in front of here, I'm spending money I don't have.
Yeah, that number.
So when you say yes, I could say, yeah, that would probably be the thing to do, but if we're supposed to stay in the black.
Oh, no,
Then I'm
no, well, I
spending
guess
money
what
I
I'm
don't
saying
have.
is, next year, you've got, and I guess because June's the next day, that will go a little more, because you're gonna have all you can handle in the spring.
It would be just a unique situation where the bridge would get fixed now and not pay for it till January, and you would money in January to pay for the bridge.
All right, Chuck, and then.
Yeah, I have a question. Okay, is there no reason we couldn't use drive plates on there, in other words, road plates, until next year when we have the funds to begin that project? Is there any reason we couldn't put a drive plate on there? Road plate, sorry.
That has been discussed, and we have spoken with the engineers in regard to road plates, making the bridge one lane, put stoplights at either end of it. And it was advised not to do that by the engineer.
Why? Did he give a technical reason we could understand?
He did not.
To put lights there is very costly.
I'll bet you it don't cost as much as 80 grand. You see what I'm saying? If we could do a couple of months, I'm sure it won't cost us, $5,000 to throw 2 red lights up there.
Oh, yeah,
That are-
no.
Well, I could come back, I don't have a problem
We
coming
don't
back
have
to
the
the
money
board.
to put into this project right now. That's the problem we're trying to figure out, and that's the truth.
Well, I made the comment at the commission meeting last week that we could wait. We don't have to get paid when that bridge is fixed. I said we can hold off till they get their appropriation in December.
So you're from the company then?
Yes, sir.
That would have been nice to know.
I think everybody here probably knows that.
I knew him, I should
I
have
didn't
told him.
know, I'm sorry. I saw you in the man, I don't know who you are, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that would have been nice to know who he was.
I just think.
Well, what,
I'm Bill Bryan with COI.
yeah,
I've
Thank you,
been
sir.
with him for 16 years.
Okay.
I just think you have a clear path ahead of you with public safety tax money.
the main,
It's already laid out there, you know it's coming, it's already been approved. If Bill is sitting here, and I don't know about the rest of them, are saying that to hold off in January to get payment, that money's going to be there, the bridge will be repaired, be fixed, opened back up, you can pay for the bridge in January.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion that,
I'd like to speak on this.
okay,
This bridge is not an emergency and the commissioners are not done with it. They need at least another hearing, the public needs to look into it. Wesley Chapel is right there. So it's very quick if you're a car to get to 231 and it's a good paved road. It's a narrow Owen County road, but it's a good paved road. Now, if you're Aqua Logistics and you're hauling 6,000 gallons of water up to Niagara, then that bridge is a real pain in the butt. But I don't think you want to spend $80,000 just because Aqua Logistics doesn't want to drive down to Spencer, turn left, and turn back up at 231. For a car, this is not an emergency. The commissioners are not finished with it. Let them finish with it, and then the public can talk to them about that bridge.
I thought you were done with your question, or wasn't raising your hand earlier, so I did not mean not to
I don't
call.
think you could see me, I couldn't see you.
I saw you a long time ago, but anyway. All right,
I
is
just
that it?
appreciate getting my 2 cents worth. We're good.
Okay. I don't know, Rich, if he,
All I gotta say is, I'm not with the water company that he's talking about, I'm a neighbor. There's some other neighbors here, we all use that road, of course. And he's right, Wesley Chapel's okay, it's a nice little paved road, I got a 4-wheel drive truck. Let me meet another one, someone's gotta get off the road. Bottom line is, I work in Indianapolis, I have horse stables in Burr. Now, going 3 miles out of my way, that's no big deal, that's true. Maybe I'm spoiled, but when I go Burr into Rattlesnake Road, or Cooper Road, I can hang a left and be on that highway. That road is so traveled, and that bridge that everybody up by Beth's house, all the way up, down Rattlesnake Road, up Hell Hill, all those people travel that bridge. You know, and I'd like to see it fixed, and there sounds to me like there'd be a good pathway since the sheriff came up with it, and other options as well. That's my take on it. I'm not from a water company. I'm just a taxpayer out there along with some other people sitting back behind me.
That's all.
Thank you.
There's a high amount of traffic that uses all of those roads. And a lot of people have to go that way to hit I-70 4 or 5 in the morning. Like the sheriff said, during an emergency, that can cause a lot of chaos. And there's a lot of traffic. I would say there's probably 300 to 400 cars a day across that.
Okay, so there's some conflicting takes on this, so I want to hear from the sheriff and Greg, what are the implications here? What?
Well, for me, for Wesley Chapel, it is a paved, good paved road, it's way too narrow. I mean, traveling on our situation, or for Chris's situation, stuff like that, it's a narrow road, you have to be extremely careful on Wesley Chapel. You know, it's smooth, nice and paved, but it's just way too narrow, it's about 8 feet too narrow as far as I'm concerned. So that is implications, especially if you're going after somebody or need to pick somebody. To me, it's 2 minutes to somebody's life is 2 minutes to somebody's life.
I think the bottom line here, we need to, which is the most important, if he can wait on his money the first of the year, which is the most important to look at than what you was gonna spend the money that you got in January. Was you gonna spend the money you got in January for something that's more important than this? Or is this more important? I think that's what you gotta think about.
Well, that's an extremely good question, and yes, this is very important. But each person that lives on the other ones that I've got closed would tell you that they're very important.
Well, I understand.
Now, I'm making a case because I answer that phone out there.
Oh, I know.
So I will tell you that everybody that's got a closed bridge, probably the most important bridge that I've got to open right now, and it probably doesn't make sense to anybody here, but Server Road. I got a dead end road where people are crossing the creek every day, and they can give me, before long it's gonna be winter. Now, we're gonna fix that ourselves, but it's gotta get repaired. So I figured out how to do that this year myself, but if you ask me what my most important, because just though there's a few people, I've gotta get those people in and out. That's part of my travel system. So the most important bridge, if you ask me today that I've got to repair, I'm sorry guys, it's Server Road Bridge. But we're gonna repair that themselves, and I've got that figured out of my budget. The next road that we're talking about, and you know, I work for 3 commissioners, and again, none of them's here tonight. But they have deemed the bridge on Rocky Hill, which is Bridge 16.
Now, the last part of his comments were that the commissioners need to figure out more before this comes to the council. So, can you elaborate on that? I mean, is there something here that's needs to be brought out on that?
Well, we spoke just a few moments before we walked in. We talked about the engineering, et cetera, and who looked at it. And then I was called in. So we probably had about 3 minutes to speak before we walked in. But whatever it was, I mean, it wasn't long, maybe 5 or 10. He wants, I think he would like to know in regard to the abutments and what the engineering was on it. I think that's one of the things that he said. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, I'm sorry.
The commissioners should publish, get it on their schedule, and instead they're doing this little side run.
Right, but see, that's the commissioners.
Yes.
That's the commissioner, that isn't. Yes, that's correct, that's what we did speak about that too.
All right.
But this has to go, if you approve this tonight, it's still gotta go back in front of the commissioners because they didn't decide who could or couldn't repair it, although it looks clear probably it would be CLR.
Okay.
I just didn't call that.
Good, I want you to wait.
No quote, no contract, no one has been accepted. So I just want to be real clear. This would have to be resubmitted and they would have to come in. So whatever CLR or E3 or Acme or whatever it is, but I want to be just crystal clear. No one has been accepted, no price has been accepted, no contract has been accepted, no plans have been accepted in any way. That has to be done.
Well, and Jim, that's kind of, so, do we need to be, I mean,
I can give you an opinion, not
Yes.
about the bridge, not about the legitimacy. Here is the thing, what the highway superintendent has presented to you, anyone that looks at the cumulative bridge will see a substantial number. That number does not mean that that is available. Kelly Bridge contract has already been awarded. That is going to be completed. That is going to divest the vast majority of that money. So 170, 220, whatever that number is, that's not available. In addition, the highway superintendent needs some money in his bridge cumulative because there has to be inspections. Some of those are reimbursed, but you don't want that to be at zero. Then, the next thing would be, there would be a settlement projected somewhere in the range of December 15th. Money will be going into the Q Bridge. Does he have anything?
And I've got that dollar amount
So is it,
from,
he's already got his whole year amount?
no,
You're probably looking at your settlement distribution because of your staffing cuts. To be, our settlement date is December 14th. Since we're gonna be really late, I've been first in the state, first been approved in Indiana for the last couple of years. We were able to get settlement done in November, but because you cut treasurer staffing and our staffing, we're looking at December 14th at the first day that we're gonna be processing settlement. That puts us further back in line with other counties that will have submitted their settlements prior. So you're probably looking at another 1 or 2 weeks before we get approval from the state, so you're probably looking at Christmas or after.
Okay, so
and the
two
amount,
weeks
and
later.
the amount was 162,456.
So
162,
Yeah.
that's
So
what we
2 weeks
received
later,
last year.
it would come in. But that money then would be at the discretion of commissioners and the highway superintendent of what bridges they would repair with the 162 by the end of the year.
And clearly, there are far more questions than there are answers. For them to declare an emergency, they should then put out an open bid process and then come to the council and say, this is what we're doing, this is where we think it can happen, this is how we think it can happen, and then we work with them. We're not gonna be able to do anything tonight, Greg, I'm sorry, it's just, there's no way, we have no money nowhere. As it is, we just closed out the frickin' rainy day fund tonight by our action.
Councilman, you don't have to apologize to me, I understand.
Sounds to me like you've got options for the money.
I was thinking about the commission.
I can't encumber, in my opinion, we cannot encumber next year's money.
You don't have to go.
Well,
I'm not gonna
you
go.
started first. Look,
No, you interrupted me.
right,
You interrupted me.
I apologize for interrupting you, but the reality is, we don't have the money,
Okay,
and we can't encumber it for next year.
may I finish?
yes, you
Sure, go
can.
ahead.
It sounds to me like you have options right back here.
That doesn't come in till next year, that's what you don't know.
I do know, and the gentleman here said if they got the bid.
Yeah, and that's where
But
things
they
are
haven't
getting.
got the bid yet, that has to be,
And I
that has to
understand.
go through the county commissioners,
I understand that as well.
because I'm frustrated.
So am I, but I'm
We're
not
being
telling
given
you.
information that we can't do anything with, and you expect us to somehow snap a finger and have every
You
answer.
have no idea what I expect. I never said no such thing.
Rich,
I do expect it to be looked at.
Rich,
Yes, sir.
absolutely, and so, look, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, I feel like if we have an emergency bridge closure and we need money to repair it, commissioners need to be here at least one.
I agree to that, Andy. This is a serious situation. Why aren't they here supporting their highway superintendent? Because he's kind of been through it with us, and I agree. Thank you, Andy.
Furthermore, why haven't they put out an official bid process to get this going?
I think.
Why is this we're just
They
hearing
have.
about this first?
They did, on the bridges, they have done that, just to be clear, they followed the statutory procedure. under emergency, they declared it, it's in the minutes, and that allows for the 2 quotes. The 2 quotes that have been tabled, they have not been awarded.
I actually.
Then why bring it to us?
I actually told the commissioners that they needed to be requoted and asked them to reject them. That is, I believe that's, I asked the commissioners to reject them because they were apples to oranges, is what I asked the commissioners to do. And the commissioners did so. Then the commissioners asked me to come to this council tonight with a ballpark figure in regard to repairing the bridge deck. So that's what I've
Wouldn't it be nice if
done.
the commissioners were here to explain that, wouldn't it?
Commissioners need one more meeting at the least, and they're just trying to get around.
Andy, if we're not gonna take any action, I just.
Yeah, let's move on, this is beyond us.
I think we got one more comment.
I just was gonna say, I think a lot of this was brought because someone was telling the public that we had the money when that was not exactly true. And I think that's what the whole, is that kind of the.
That is what I believe, yes.
Yeah. So we need to kind of watch what we say until we know for sure.
That must have been me. It could have been me. Because I talked to several people, and Anton explained to me that there's an emergency bridge fund. And I also talked to Bro, not just Anton, I talked to several people sitting up there, not you. And it was a good conversation on all accounts. And I was explaining that there's an emergency bridge fund, which I don't know about any of this. Okay, and it's like, well, if it was gonna be $150,000 to $200,000, you know, it might be feasible. You know, I said, well, I think it's gonna be around 50 or 60, but I don't know exactly what it's gonna be, because I'm not partaking in it yet, but we're guessing. And I was told, well, if that's what it is, more likely, you know, there's a good possibility we can get that done. It's not gonna be a great amount, over $100,000. And that's what I said. And it's not, it's 70,000 or something, I don't know. But, you know, so it was probably me, and I said what I was told.
I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just saying that, what emergency.
It's just really difficult at this time.
I understand.
I think personally, the commissioners need to be here, explain, bring in the things they need to know. We need to know, because there's a lot of questions we have that we can't get into.
I cannot answer for, I know Commissioner Burton is out of town, I cannot answer for Commissioner Currier.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't think I've ever seen but one of them in here at any one time this year, so.
So is your name Doug?
Yes.
Doug, thanks. We talk via telephone, and I want you and everybody else to know, I think this is something that maybe we can handle, you know, soon. I just don't think, I think steps have got to be retraced here, and you know, a couple things, ballpark amounts, that's the toughie. The other thing is, you know, we can't make any motion that's going to say, well, this guy offers financing and this guy, well, they might, or whatever. We've got to make sure this thing's right. And so we are going to move on. Yes, sir.
All we ask is your effort at least. And secondly, a lot of people are concerned about the winter time. That's what I hear. I know 3 little ladies that live over that way. They're fine. They get around good now. But the terrain, once you turn right off Cuba Road, I live on Rockyville Road. We go out that way when it snows and stuff. Of course, the county's been really good about keeping Western Chapel clean. But sometimes 4 and 5 in the morning, we can't expect them to be there around the clock. And I know that when there's a freezing rain or snow, 3 or 4 in the morning, there's a lot of traffic that comes out of Cuba Road, and those people are going to have to go up that way to hit I-70 and stuff. So maybe, in worst case scenario, if there could be some funds allocated to upgrade the shoulders on that road, a guard on each side where you could meet a school bus and a pickup truck. and maybe have a private contractor available. God forbid, if you can't get the bridge fixed before the first snow, have someone around the clock during the wee hours that can stand those hills on that road.
Yeah, so my next question before we kind of stop this was gonna be, so I could understand it better, it's kind of like, where does Bridge 16 fall in safety-wise to the priorities that they've got projected, and, because that's clearly important to us.
And the Circle Road Bridge is also, there's a lot of people that go through there to go to the campgrounds and stuff during the summer, you know, up in State Forest. And a lot of people from that direction do have to come out to go to I-70 and 67 to go to work. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I've got a semi with a grain trailer to bring grain out. There's no way I can go up Western Chapter.
Absolutely no way.
No, you can't make
I mean,
that.
I can even make the turn
You can't make that turn.
off of Rocky Hill onto Western Chapter.
Okay, so it's harvest time. What?
It's harvest time right around the corner.
So if they put a metal plate on that bridge, can you go on that bridge?
If the weight limit was, 70 or 80,000, yeah.
They can, right? Now, stop, I'm gonna stop because we're in a total area that we're not even.
Well, I've got some questions, and to be fair, I want to get those out of the way. Who else had questions?
Weren't you at Commissioners?
I was.
Weren't you there?
I was.
Yeah. You saw that the whole reason for this, because they didn't have time to publish and get a meeting before this meeting.
I don't know what reasoning.
They said it. They said we can't get 5 days. We can't get published for our next hearing. So let's send Greg.
Well, to be fair though, there is more details tonight that I've learned and have learned since that meeting before we got here. And
His suggestion about building up, because Wesley Chapel is one of these 18-foot roads. Well, the Walmart parking space is 10 feet.
here's the deal, sir. I'm telling you, these sound like workable things, but none of us are in the position to be able to direct any of
No,
that.
I understand that. I'm just agreeing with him.
Please, didn't you say you wanted both bids rejected?
I did.
Thank you, we're done. Until he and the commissioners can agree, we're done.
All right, let's,
Thanks.
hey, thanks for coming, all of you, thanks, and
Only thing I ask,
more
if you
phone.
guys can't, if we can't come to a conclusion on fixing the road, since I'm seeing things going backwards here, put the damn plates over it, but let's get it open for God's sakes. I mean,
I agree with that part,
let's get
put
it
the
open.
plates on it.
There's too many people out there.
I understand what you're saying. I don't think that that's viable, but I'll get that information.
Okay.
I'd rather have it fixed, but I want to open the plates.
Chris?
I can hear you.
Dan?
I got road drawings near me too.
I'm not done.
You're not done?
No. Sorry. As I told you earlier, I know there's a hiring freeze on. I lost a truck driver and I lost a laborer this week. I'm asking that at the very least, you allow me to hire a truck driver. I will forego the laborer if I need to. I'd like to have both, but I do need to hire a truck driver.
Okay, let me stop you right there. I'm coming right back to you. I wanna go ahead and move forward with item number G.
Yeah, let's take care of it.
And that's hiring freeze policy review. We've made, the cuts to the positions that we're going to make. I'll entertain a motion to lift the hiring freeze.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion.
Second.
And part of that though is that previous cuts already made still stand. This is for vacancies that occur moving forward that need to be filled. The freeze will be lifted.
I'll still second.
Okay.
All right, motion on the floor by Anton, seconded by Chuck. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0.
So these two are rendered moot because, yeah, okay.
Anything else, Greg?
We do have, as y'all know, I had to shoulder the, flood on my own, so I have cash balance at 1169, and I'm, you probably have in front of you the, additional appropriation request in regard to, local road and street stone and bridge culvert.
Okay, so those are transfers then?
They're appropriation.
Out
Out of my cash balance.
out of your own, okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we advertise for the appropriations in the amount of 30,000 from Fund 1135 and 163,647.85 out of Fund 1169.
Second.
Okay, 163, 647.85 and 30,000. Motion on the floor by Anton, seconded by Chuck. You've got the fund numbers and you're good to go, Sheila? Any further discussion?
These are the ones that the state did pre-approve for us to go ahead and use
What you're waiting on.
the monies and catch up the process, which was bringing it to you tonight. Still doing the public hearing to acknowledge it, but he could go ahead and utilize the funds based on the state's approval, and we have that in writing.
Anything else? Call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. Greg. Hey, thanks for what you're doing, Greg.
Mr. Chair, could we take 5 minutes?
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
We can, let's be back at 5 after.
Oh, and
Oh, Sheila's not back, my bad. Chuck will be here in a minute.
I put some numbers together today. Actually, I can't take credit for it. The auditor's office helped me tremendously putting some numbers together today. To show what administrative assistant would cost to the EMS. But one of the things that it's hard for me to talk about, you know, something like this. It's hard for me to bring up again that with the crisis that everyone's having with employees or getting people to work, you can see what the hourly rate, what these numbers break down to. And you can see what part-timers are making and what full-timers are making. I know you guys helped us out a couple of years ago, and just keep in the back of your head what's happening right now in the workforce. You know, McDonald's advertising up to $15 an hour now. Bloomington, they just put into place, Bloomington Hospital ambulance service just put into place. Other EMTs make below $16 an hour, and that's something that we fight all the time, is trying to keep up with other people so we can continue to bring people to us. I was told that Bloomington brought all their EMTs up to 16, starting out. First year, after they're there a year, they get $1. After they're there another year, they get another $1. The third year, they get a third $1. So you're talking a 3-year EMT making $18 an hour. And you can see what our EMTs are making. So I'm just trying to keep, you guys please keep that in the back of your mind also. It's hard for me to say. An administrative position, you know, I think I would pay this amount, but my EMTs are only gonna make 12, you know, so just keep that in mind also. But I was asked to get some numbers together for an EMS administrative position. We talked about that a couple of years ago. If you remember, it was put in the budget, and we decided to hold off on it for a little while. Don't begrudge that decision at all. I'm still behind that decision. It helped out. I think it was a good idea. And then it wasn't even put in this year's budget, but here I am again. Well, it's getting more and more stuff is getting on me, and it's, I know that's sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing, but I'm asking for an administrative assistant.
How's, you haven't replaced Brandon or anything yet, have you?
I'm not. I've hired since, and I apologize for not coming to the commissioner or the council and the commissioners meetings. Recently, I've been on the trucks a lot. I've hired, since I think the last time we talked, I've hired 3 part-timers. I've lost a few part-timers and a few full-timers. So I'm still behind the 8 ball there. I'm working towards getting some more. I was telling Nick all he was asking about, I said, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Let's just get into the end of the tunnel. So.
Have you got anybody in mind on it yet?
As far as making a second in command?
Yeah.
I do, kinda. I really don't wanna
You don't have to tell them.
I've kind of thought about who I thought that might be, but,
But you do need another paramedic.
oh, if we were on schedule where we, and there wasn't a nurse shortage and our paramedics jumped to nurses, we would be right now a paramedic on every ambulance and then the 3 supervisors is where we would be at this point. That was a plan, I think, before you got on the board. The plan was to add a paramedic every year until we had a paramedic and an EMT on every ambulance and then 3 paramedic supervisors. That was our ultimate goal.
And didn't we go backward a position one year because of a shortage and?
We went back a couple times.
We had to go back to an EMT instead of a paramedic.
What is it, 3 weeks ago, I think for a 4-hour shift, one was in the hospital. I think the nurses gives $400 bonus on a 4-hour shift.
They're doing the same thing with their ambulance service. Not to that amount. I really don't know what the amount is. I have heard they're giving bonuses for people to come in and work shifts. I know they're having problems covering some of the IU games. They're giving bonuses for that. So, I've heard, I don't know that, I've heard that they are having problems and they're giving a bonus to work the IU games. So yeah, they're out there giving bonuses, and of course the guys tongue in cheek ask when we get our bonuses. Like, we're government, we can't give you those bonuses. So, but that's some of the things about the KRP.
You know, we asked you to do this. This is good stuff.
I do have the exact figure for you. The D-level support position that this would pay $16.759 an hour. So that middle one there was pretty much on target with what it would pay.
I honestly looked at my paperwork and I could not find exactly what we budgeted that one year.
Yeah,
I jumped in here at 37, 35, and 32, and
you hit it right in the middle.
the auditor's office was good about helping me get numbers.
Yeah, because it was a D level then. Now we've since had a small raise and some, minor adjustments, but that's kind of what it would be at.
Yes.
I am all on board for him getting an administrative position because I know he's overworked and this would at least free him up a little bit to help him out there. Of course, the EMS is kind of near and dear to my heart, so I would like to see, I understand with the pay. I was kind of surprised when I saw what the EMTs make. When you're talking about their training and they're doing life and death and they are the same as McDonald's, and that's sad because no wonder you're having a hard time filling your positions. And I'd like to see that change too. And in paramedics, same, so that's where I'm at. And that's one of the reasons why I was on board with the public safety tax and raising that, because this will help this out. And this is something that's so important.
Yes, sir.
And my apologies for running a little late.
Yeah, no.
I'm speaking with the public. Have we discussed, Chris, and I apologize for the late, do we have the funds within the levy, your levy, that we're able to use for this?
I've got the cash balance within my 1151 that we can do that, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, realistically, we're not gonna be able to pull too much from anywhere else, right? So we're gonna have to take it from your tax line.
This is something that I can
be able to carry it out for a few years that way, right?
Now, you came to us and said, hey, this is something that I, really need. Again, you gave the background, the history of it coming out and taken back, and the fact that you're writing, and I'm not trying to put you against your employees or whatever, but what are the financial priorities down there? Are they, you just explained and you weren't here, so I'll read you up is, the competition as far as what we've dealt with several times here is, other municipalities and governments offer a better package, and that we have people that transfer or whatever. But so I guess, I'm not saying is your system more important than these things, but if you had a minute to prioritize the rate of pay or, an admin assistant, is the answer, well, just both? Or is there any kind of methodology to that?
I think just real honestly and answering just as blunt as I can, they're both important. I think that for many years, you guys can see that I put myself behind the employees. And it's getting to the point that I'm just overworked. I can't do it. You guys have been real good about reimbursing me, my pay and everything, but it's getting to the physical point that you can't put more than 24 hours in a day.
Okay, so Jim, you've done a lot of analysis on this fund.
So you got EMS 1151, just the top of the head ballpark, there's over 600,000 in it. Chris has a billing amount that comes in, so it does not match his expenses, but there's a significant amount of revenue that comes in each month based on the billing. Looking at this in every way, it would certainly fund it. The 1151 could withstand a funding of this position. So, I mean, the money is there. You would not be looking at general or looking at different ones. Now, it would carry on. If it would have an effect, obviously it's going to decrease if you're looking at annual. So I'm just trying to give the whole broad picture. But the short answer to this is, it looks like you have a situation where your director is basically working 24 hours a day. That may be something the council would want to take into consideration. It seems to be, purely opinion, a very legitimate request of what needs to be done, and you would have the ability to fund it out of 1151.
Is there, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is there a job description that we already have set up for this, or is this something that would have to go through wages?
You can modify any of the existing positions to fit this particular department, because there'd be a lot of similarities. It would be a D-level support, so we have several already. And that was the point I was going to interject, is that of all the departments we have, particularly large departments, I mean, this is one of the top 3 budgets in the county. And to think there's 0 administrative staff at period, I mean, he's typing his own letters and doing his own payroll. And, a lot of our other department heads already have staff, already have people that are in those roles. So it's definitely a major issue.
It's probably not that good a typer either.
Handwriting sucks. Hereby make a motion to authorize the EMS department to hire 1 D-level assistant for the director. Funding to come out of the 1135?
1151.
1151 line.
Effective when?
Effective, how soon do you think you can hire one, Chris?
I need 30 days anyway.
So what?
I probably need 30 days anyway.
Effective November 1st.
Being very rude up here, just it still would have to be just the appropriation, so I'm being very rude, just for your time period. Yeah, so subject to the appropriation.
So subject to the appropriation and time of November 1st. Is that good enough, Chris? That gives us time to appropriate. paperwork and everything, okay? So November first.
Give us time to look at a job description.
Yeah, we can get all that in order.
Is that for good enough
Motion on
for
the
you,
floor.
Madam Auditor?
Can we put additional appropriation on the agenda for the 28th work session?
Yes.
Yes.
And that would let him hire October 1st,
You
probably.
can add that to the motion that this will be put
If
on
he's
the
ready.
October,
I mean, you
September
can-
28th meeting as well.
If this passes right now.
So advertised, so.
I second that.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor for one D level employee for the administration position at the EMS. With a hire date after the,
November first.
I thought they said October first might be possible, if we, so,
Well, then, I said November first because you would have more time
well,
to get things
that,
done.
it's your motion, so.
Well, give me an advice here.
Okay.
October first?
You could just put
October
hire
15th.
date upon approval from DLGF, because
There you go.
Okay.
Hire date on approval from the LDS. What?
Yeah,
DLGF. Oh, wait a minute. We asked one.
Okay. You have that, Madam Auditor?
Yep.
You got the one.
You understand, Chris, or when you can.
All right, so,
I've got a story to share.
and that's seconded by Nick. All right, listen,
And don't be making me this, make
I
me
want-
a part of the admission. You better get some damn rest too. This person is tired.
yeah, you're losing your hair.
If I had to drag you out and cook that hamburger, I will.
Hey, listen to me. I want to be very clear on this. Significant impact has happened to general fund positions. This money is being paid for out of Chris's levy. You guys know this, all right? But I want to make this clear publicly that this is paid for out of his levy, his billable services and such. So, it's not out of property tax dollars from the county.
It's out
It is
of.
unappropriated.
Okay, wait, I'm
It
sorry.
is.
Not that's obligated towards the general fund. Okay, now, we're in discussion. Any more comments? Hearing nothing else, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0.
Just any questions for me?
No.
I'd like to make a statement. We really got a good man when Chris came on board. He's been with us a number of years. He's been a man you can communicate to, and he's very sincere about everything that he does. Thank you, Chris. I want to make that public.
You're here.
Yeah, that's like the theme that keeps on going with Chris.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
All right.
You better get some rest.
All right.
It's my turn.
Yep.
Kathleen, you're the next contestant.
All right, so, I just have, first, I guess, a couple comments. And I do not want anything that I'm going to say to be taken away from Chris, his department, or Chris. And I know, I'm pretty sure I know Chris well enough that he's not gonna take this the wrong way. So, I'm just gonna throw this out there. And I wanna confirm that I heard this right, that D-level employees, you start out at $16.75 an hour. I just advertised for dispatchers at $15.39. I came to the 2020 budget hearings for 2021 budget and asked for raises for dispatchers, and I was denied. At that time, I had money in my funds to pay for raises, and it was denied. So, again, not saying Chris does not need his employee, because he's 100% needs an office assistant. If you saw his office, he needs some filing help.
That was been like.
So, he definitely needs some help, but.
Okay, so on that, real quick. Was it 3 years ago probably when we adjusted pay for the sheriff's department and dispatch Is that about right?
A little bit,
What's that?
a little bit. It wasn't significant.
Right, but there was a lot of analysis that took place, and I can remember, the state police starting salary was also a part of that. I mean, there was different drivers, so, you know,
Which they also just got massive raises. State police recognized that, dispatchers got large increase in pay.
yeah.
Reasonable,
Yes.
yeah. I think at the
Recently,
time,
but
yeah,
probably not, yes, not at that time.
he was referring to at that time, and they were pretty close to target at the time, but that doesn't mean they're at
And I'm
now.
not saying that, well, I don't want you to think that nothing was ever looked at, or that, you know, you guys just got left behind, because it was pretty close, because at the time, that's what he was dealing with, was the other people going to other, and it was before you came, so it all kind of, and we want to make sure that we were competitive with other areas. Okay, go ahead.
But we're getting to the point that I'm not competitive with other areas, because raises have not occurred with dispatch, here in the county, and with the other agencies getting large raises. There's some things in the works in a neighboring county that has not been approved, but I've spoken to a director, so I don't want to speak specifically openly in a public meeting about what that percentage increase is going to be, but I'm pretty sure 6 jaws would hit their table right now if I told you what that percentage is going to be, just to bring them up to a standard to where they're not constantly losing employees to a neighboring county. So that's extremely difficult when, like Chris said, McDonald's is starting to hire at $15 an hour, and I start out at $15.39. And we do have longevity, which, yes, we have longevity, but 8 cents on the hour, $134 a year, something like that. Overtime, yes, can add up, but does not create a separation of employees with years of service, talent, and experience. Doesn't separate a new hire from somebody that's been here for several years. So that's just my little comment I'm gonna put out there, so.
Very, very important. Yeah, and I agree, we got sidetracked financially, but we still have a plan of action to address all system-wide positions. Because dispatch is not the only one that's probably not sufficient.
Right.
And there's a lot that need to be bumped up, but it all has to be done in a systematic way and something that's fair. And there has to be money to do that, of course.
Right.
Regardless of the fund source,
Yeah.
but something there to do that. But I would think that that's something that would be back onto our plate this coming year to address that, so.
Yeah. And I completely understand. I just feel like I would not be doing my job if I did not
Oh, you have.
bring that to the
You're doing your
forefront. Because I'm the person that
You have
have my
to.
employees back. So, and
Good for you.
you know, I'm not gonna lie, I might have some people apply for Chris's position. So it is what it is.
And then we are facing, like you touched on this, inflation's gonna be a big deal.
Correct.
It already is.
Yeah.
And it starts with wages.
Mhm.
And so you're gonna see this upward spiral for everything.
Yeah.
That's just gonna keep pushing that bar, so. Yeah.
What else? What do you do?
So,
Go ahead.
speaking of hiring and everything like that, like I said, I did just open up our hiring process today. I am short 2 dispatchers. Our newest dispatcher that we hired just did not make it. So there were just some things. So I'm now needing to hire for 2 people. These are the 2 tack shift positions, that midnight to noon, or noon to midnight, I apologize. And then there'll be that float. So I have received some emails from some people already interested in applications and everything. So like I said, that just went out this afternoon.
Good.
I did not have anybody internally apply from the applications that I sent out from the layoffs. Some retired, some moved out of state. I 100% get it. This job is not for everybody. It is not fun and exciting, so it is what it is.
It was good
but-
you offered.
Do what?
It was good you offered.
Yeah, so the offer was there. So what I'm here today is two things. I have an appropriation that I can get to that later here in a few minutes, but we did just complete a phone project over at the Communication Center. So if you guys remember, I've several times been in front of you and also the commissioners complaining with our phone system, having no redundancy. We were originally connected to the jail, so if anything failed at the jail, it affected the dispatch center, and then that would then fail at the dispatch center. We have gotten the 911 lines completely separated from the jail, so they are coming directly into the dispatch center. So the only time we should have a failure with our 911 lines is if it's something caused by the actual phone company and not a network building infrastructure that is specific to just Owen County government. It would have to be a large localized incident. Last Thursday, we took the steps to separate the admin phones away from the jail. So currently the jail has their own phone system and dispatch has their own phone system. So there is a new phone number for the jail sheriff's department. It's 812-829-5757. I figured that was gonna be an easy enough number for the public to remember. But they still have.
That's the sheriff admin,
Sheriff admin, same
get you to the
phone tree,
officers, get you to the
yes.
jail.
Officers, dispatch, jail
Okay.
control, get you to the office assistant, all of that kind of stuff. So that is still in place. And then dispatch, we now have our own phone system where the 829-4874 number no longer has a phone tree option that rings directly into the dispatch center. So if anybody dials, they no longer have to sit there and wait to listen to what option they need to push to get dispatch. It just rings directly to us.
Just like the old days.
Yeah, the old days.
Okay.
So, right now we are referring a lot of people to the sheriff's administration if they're asking about inmates, bond amounts, all that kind of stuff, but that is what happens when you change a phone number. It's gonna be a couple months of us having to refer people. We're not transferring because we want to educate the public in that new number. And by us giving them that number is going to train them to use that number for those instead of always calling dispatch. We have a few cleanup items that we need to do with HICOM to come out. So when this project happened on Thursday, I'm gonna say it as nicely as I can, AT&T fell on their face.
So.
So the work order was for the phone lines to come in through a copper line system. We already have fiber from AT&T upstairs in the server room, and AT&T didn't know that we did not have copper, that we had fiber. They were not able to change their work order to change those phone lines over to fiber so that tech there could continue to go on and do the work that he needed to do. So we had Derek with HICOM that was in as well, and he eventually the solution that we came to was AT&T forwarded their numbers to the 4 numbers that HICOM had provided us. So right now, AT&T still has those phone lines forwarded to HICOM. HICOM is then delivering that to us. I have spoke to the commissioners about this. What my end goal is to have HICOM port those numbers over to them, so AT&T is no longer the controller of the 4 numbers that we have, which will then get rid of an AT&T bill for the dispatch center, and then I will have a bill through HICOM. I did speak with Derek, and collectively, I believe between myself, the sheriff, well, before we separated dispatch, so the sheriff's department and the EMS bill was right around $1,100. HICOM said that they could probably make that bill in half. Because they only take $20 per line, there's no contract, all the long distance you need, the whole shebang is just $20 every phone line that you have. So here for a little bit, I'm gonna have a bill from AT&T and a bill from HICOM until we get that approval from commissioners to move over to HICOM and to get that port and everything to happen. So I just was not happy with AT&T's productivity on Thursday. Our phones went down at 10:15 and we did not get phones back until about 5:30. Wow. So we still had 911, however, we did not have administration. and that is 100% unacceptable. So when we submitted the ticket to do the forward of the phone lines, AT&T contacted me and said as soon as that they could have somebody out, or they could have the work completed by Friday at 4 p.m. So having dealt with AT&T several times, they always have a next day availability. They never have a day of availability. Is just telling me that 911 has no priority over a McDonald's phone system or Walmart's phone system or a bank's phone system. And they didn't quite understand why I needed phones as urgently as I needed phones. So I will give kudos to the AT&T tech that was in my office though. He made contact with somebody that he knew that was working in the right office and was able to get it all done fairly quickly himself. But AT&T themselves did not help at all. So anyway, project done. Couple cleanup items that we need to get done. HICOM's gonna come out in the next week or two, but it's nothing that's going to affect service levels or anything like that for citizens or within the dispatch center. Wednesday, I have a walkthrough with J&K coming through. They are the ones that won the radio project. So we are starting the process of that. So yes, I finished one project to get us up to where we need to be to turn right around and start another one less than a week later. So that is hopefully going to give us a timeline and more of a structure of when we are going to get that radio project and that tower built down in Freedom. So.
Appropriation?
Good work.
Appropriation.
Good work on it.
Is this my $50 Apple Butter Festival? So, Anton had approached me that for the Lions Club for the Apple Butter Festival, we submitted an ad for the fair program book. So we are submitting an ad for the Apple Butter Festival as well. So this is coming from our donation fund that I believe Sam actually procured the funds on that when the dispatch center was being built. So that's donation funds for the dispatch center, that is where this money is going to be coming from. So it's just coming from the cash balance of the donation fund and actually putting it into the line item.
Is it a transfer or an appropriation requiring the publication?
It's additional appropriation.
Motion to approve the additional appropriation and authorize the auditor to publish.
Okay, motion on the floor, that's out of 4915. To authorize the appropriation of $50 for the Apple Butter Festival advertisement. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Nick. Further discussion?
Yeah, so I'm gonna abstain just for the record because I am a Lions Club member. However, this is something that dispatch has done for prior festivals and in other program books, so it's not, I wanna make sure it's clear it wasn't me that was kind of selling her on this.
Because Anton.
But I am gonna abstain, just to prevent any further discussion on
And
this.
it is informational in nature.
It is, because it's got our numbers, it's got our dispatchers.
All right,
names
that's
listed
good.
in it.
It's not tax money.
I'll call for a
No.
vote. All those in favor? That's 501. Thank you, Kathy.
Alright, that's all
Thank you, Ken.
I have unless you guys.
Thank you.
You did a good job.
Probation Department additional appropriation request.
So $7,500 additional appropriation request in there, they got an extra $10,000 in the grant that they received, it was received again on June the 21st. And again, it's in your packets on it,
Any questions on that, Madam Auditor?
I don't.
Go.
I'm gonna make a motion.
Need any action on that?
that?
Motion to approve the appropriation and authorize the auditor to publish.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion on the floor by Chuck, seconded by Anton to approve the appropriation in the amount of $7,500. Further discussion? I'll call for a vote. All in favor? 6-0. All right, Congressional School Fund. Jim, do you need to?
By law, they have to be read, but I will read it as quickly as possible. This is resolution number 2021-26, Owen County Council, resolution regarding transfer of the Congressional School Fund to the state of Indiana. Whereas Owen County holds and administers two funds, mainly Fund 1125 Congressional School Principal Fund, which was derived from the sale of the Congressional Township of School Lands, and Fund 1124 Congressional School Interest Fund, comprised of interest earned on the Congressional School Principal Fund. Whereas on July 31st of 2021, Fund 1125 Congressional School Principal Fund had a balance of $18,000, and 1124 Congressional School Interest Fund had a balance of $1.63. Whereas neither of these congressional funds have any outstanding or unpaid loans. Whereas pursuant to Indiana Code 20-42-2-4.5, County Council may adopt a resolution to transfer the Congressional School Principal Interest Funds to the Treasury of the State of Indiana to be held and administered by the Treasurer. And whereas it is in the best interest of the Owen County to transfer the Congressional School Principal Interest Funds to the Treasury of the State of Indiana in order to relieve the county of administrative responsibilities and to protect it from any potential liability connected with such funds. Now therefore be it resolved by the Owen County Council the following. Pursuant to Indiana Code 2042-2-4.5, the Owen County Council hereby elects to transfer and surrender the custody of all Fund 1125 Congressional School Principal and all of 1124 Congressional School Interest to the Treasury of the State of Indiana to be held and administered and provided by law. As of number 2, as of July 31st of 2021, the balance in 1125 Congressional School Principal was $18,000, and the balance in Fund 1124 Congressional School Interest is $1.63. Pursuant to Indiana Code 2042-2-4.5A2, the Owen County Board of Commissioners, the Owen County Auditor, and the Owen County Treasurer are hereby ordered to take all steps necessary in order to surrender the custody of the Congressional School Principal Fund and the Congressional School Interest Fund to the Treasurer of the State of Indiana. 4, pursuant to Indiana Code 2042-2-4.5E, the Owen County Council elects to surrender the money for a maximum period of time of 20 years. Section 5, this does pertain to the auditor. Within 10 days after the passage of the resolution, the Owen County Council, the Owen County Auditor shall prepare and file with the Owen County Board of Commissioners a report showing the following. A, total amount of the fund that's been entrusted and held in trust by the county. B, the total amount of fund is loan provided by law. C, the total amount of fund, if any, loans which the county loans are unpaid. D, the total amount of fund held in cash in possession, custody of the county, which is not loaned. And E, a separate schedule of past due loans. The schedule must show out each unpaid balance of the principal and the amount of delinquent interest that is due on each unpaid loan. 6, the Owen County Board of Commissioners shall examine the reports and found correct. The Board of Commissioners shall order the following. A, the report shall be entered in upon its records, and B, the Owen County Auditor will draw upon the County Auditor's warrant payable to the Treasury of the State of Indiana, the amount of fund not loaned and held in cash, and the custody and possession of the county is reported by the report. 7, the Owen County Auditor shall forward the warrants to the Auditor of the State, together with a certified copy of this report. And 8, the Owen County Auditor shall forward a payment of the certified copy of this resolution of the Owen County Council, electing to surrender the custody of the entire funds. Resolution will be in full force and effect upon passage, approval, recorded publication by law, passed and adopted by the Owen County Council at a regular meeting held up to today's dated month of 2021. Owen County Council, Randy Wood, President, Will Keith, Vice President, Anton Neff, Amy K. Spear, Chuck S., Nick Robinson, Paula Chester, attested by Sheila Reeves, Auditor.
Jim, I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
I didn't quite catch the first part of it. That was one of the longer ones. Yes, you did a good job.
All right. At this time,
I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2021-026 as read and presented.
Before I second, can I get clarification that the resolution we did for Jennings County, wasn't that already 026?
That was 24.
It was 24.
Oh, it's 24, thank you, and I'll second, thank you. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
all right, motion on the floor to approve resolution number 2021-0026. Motion's made by Anton, seconded by Chuck. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. All right, Recorder's Perpetuation Fund.
Have that, and this is much shorter. This is by the recorder has agreed to this. This will save Owen County approximately $18,509 out of the general fund for next year. This is ordinance number 2021-017. Whereas the Owen County Council has received a sworn affidavit from the Owen County Recorder pursuant to Indiana Code 362710.2B in order that the recorder may pay office expenses of the recorder's office from the recorder's perpetuation fund for the budget year of 2022. Whereas the Owen County Council wishes to approve the recorder's annual request made pursuant to this sworn affidavit, so the funds from the recorder's perpetuation fund may be used for certain office expenses as requested by the recorder. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Owen County Council pursuant to Indiana Code 36-2-7-10C that the request made by the Owen County Recorder to use funds from the recorder's perpetuation fund to pay office expenses as indicated by the sworn affidavit is approved. This ordinance shall serve as the council's approval of sufficient money from the recorder's perpetuation fund to cover any specific request by the recorder. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, recording, and publication by law, passed and adopted by the Owen County Council on regular meeting held on today's date and month of 2021. Owen County Council is Andrew Wood, President, Earl Keith, Vice President, Anton Neff, A.B.K. Strickland, Paris Robertson, Paul Jessup would be attested by Sheila Reeves, the auditor, and the auditor has the copy of the sworn statement with the amount of $18,509.
We appreciate you, Jim. Okay, moving along, lit.
I'm gonna make a motion.
Yeah, might wanna do that.
Resolution 2021-017 is read and presented.
Second.
I had Polly second first.
Oh, you did start it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's.
All right, so motion on the floor by Anton for the approval of this resolution, seconded by Polly, and that's 2021-0017. Any further discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. All right. Thanks again, Jim. Okay, go ahead with the edit.
Lit edit, this was referred to at the very beginning of the meeting. This would be out of lit edit, fund number 7332. This is a concurrent request by the auditor's office to transfer the $50,000 currently in personal services, that's the 10,000 series, and the $50,000 currently in capital outlays, the 40,000 service, transfer the total of $100,000 to other services and contracts, and that would have now a $450,000 appropriation in the 30,000.
Which memo was that on? Which one of your, was that in our packet?
No, this is verbal. What it's looked at, Anton, it's very unlikely that either there'll be any expense out of the 50 in personal or capital outlay.
It's just a tweak.
All we're doing is just kind of clearing this up.
So it's 50,000 in personnel and 50,000 in capital outlay, and you're gonna transfer that 100,000 to other services?
And contracts.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we allow the transfer as presented.
Okay.
Fund 7332.
Got it? 50,000 from personnel and 50,000 capital outlays to other services. I hear a second. Second by Chuck. Further discussion. Call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0.
So on your salary ordinance, I do want to point out something real quick before we do that. Most of these are your typical employee changes since the last batch, but 4 of them do follow through on our previous budget reduction work. If you recall, there were several, well, not several, but there were a couple positions that went down to 30 hours per week, and the commissioners have modified their personnel policy to kind of be in tandem with that and still classify that as full-time, correct, Jim?
Yes, that is correct.
And then they did reduce the custodian position to a part-time, and then we had the recorder's full-time went to a part-time. So those are a part of this as well as the regular employee changes.
Motion to approve the president's signature upon those confirmation summaries as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion on the floor by Chuck, seconded by Nick. President to sign this confirmation summaries. Further discussion, we'll vote. All in favor? So, elected official, department heads, public, well, I'll start there.
I got one quick thing. Jill Matron, who's an appointed position by state statute by the sheriff only, she put in her 2 weeks resignation. She'll be leaving next Friday. I'm putting out to the people that got laid off, to see if they're interested in the position.
Thank you.
As well as the public, but if somebody that got laid off is acceptable, I'll appoint one of those people in the major position before I go to the public. But I'm gonna go ahead and advertise it because we only got 2 weeks, but then I probably anybody hired by then anyways.
Thank you.
Who's that? Who is that?
Sean Garrett, she's the matron, but it's a state statute. The matron is appointed by the sheriff.
I see.
So, thank you.
Yep.
Public,
Real quick though, didn't the sheriff, he had a small appropriation, right, from the, oh no, that was
$50.
with dispatch, okay, just wanna make sure we didn't skip anything there.
Baron or Peggy?
We're all getting tired, Anton.
Yeah, I didn't wanna let it go,
Sorry, my apologies.
Attorney, you got anything else?
I just do have one thing, nothing that, the lit edit, I said this, I cannot emphasize it enough. If my understanding was correct, what we heard today, Owen County's been extraordinary in getting their settlements, dealing with the first, if not the first one in the county. It appears that will not occur this time. It's not drug trade away, I'm just saying this is gonna be one of the facts. It's looking like that's going to be into what I'm gonna determine is kind of late December. It is going to be tough, the current too, because everything was kind of aimed at that November 30th. This is a 3-week extension to that. All I'm saying is council, it's just anything the council can present, the departments are doing a good job, but there just cannot be a rush of spending from, say, mid-October to mid-November. That is not possible this year. There is no avenue that allows that. If it's something the council might want to consider, or even I'll bring up with the commissioners of lowering the small purchase to make even some discussions that you may want to have before any, even though there is an appropriation, before it's approved, but any possibility, because we're looking at, I would say, a 3-week extension in a time period. It's very legitimate, totally understand that. Please don't ever hear what I'm not saying, but we went from maybe November 30th to December 21st, 22nd. That really wasn't the original plan.
All right, what spending limit would you recommend them setting?
Okay, well, I'm not here to take everyone, Andy. I mean, I would say, if you're talking about anyone wanting to purchase something over $500, I think just, and I apologize, I don't have the mythology to put it, but I think keeping that in mind, that anything over 500 that's going, I don't want to make this burden where it says, well, wait a minute, this public defender, he's got a contract. I get all that. What I'm talking about is anything optional, anything like.
yeah, end of the year.
But that end of the year, and I don't know that it's ever happened, but let's just say hypothetically if it's passed, then everyone says, let's spend all the appropriations. That absolutely cannot happen this year. It cannot.
I'm gonna make a motion to recommend to the commissioners that a spending limit on any optional item be set at a maximum of $500.
I'll present that on the 20th. That's when.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Terry.
One question about that. Just be careful. There's claims already submitted.
Correct, but I don't.
So that's going on from today.
Right, if the date of the claim is before then, there's nothing you can do about it.
So they haven't been approved yet, so I just want to make.
And this is non-binding, this is a recommendation motion to the commissioners. They're the ones that they're in the driver's seat in terms of claims and review and the final. We've done our part as far as budgeting.
As far as the department head, though,
yeah.
It's not the commissioners that drives it for me.
Oh, well, yeah, but as far as the policy that's being placed, yeah.
I just want to make sure that the claims is working.
One last thing that I promise I'll go to my seat.
We do have a motion and a second.
Let's vote on this. Motion by me, second by Chuck. Further discussion, call for a vote. 6-0 on that.
Multiple things as far as the funds we talked about. The original 13 to 15 funds that were in the red, they are constantly decreasing. Unfortunately, they're coming in and filling in place. Most of these are grant funds. I would like to consider in that anyone that has a grant, there's already the ordinance has been there, they have to be approved. But they need a budget. They don't have to be a sophisticated budget, but they need to have the appropriations and come to you. So it's also a recommendation of anyone that has an existing grant that has not presented a budget to you. I would ask that the council consider that. It doesn't require a new ordinance, it's already there, but just more of a reiteration, because there's no point of getting these 13 funds out of the red and just bring in 13 more grant funds. So I'm just more for information, but I would ask that, that's kind of an expectation of the county council. If you have a grant, it needs to have a budget with it, with an appropriation process.
Well, and there was wasn't there a grant checklist and everybody had to go through the steps?
Yes.
And should have, yeah.
Yeah, it should.
Is that being done?
No, it's not, and I'm just saying, let's bring that back.
Yeah.
And that's just an expectation. You have a grant, do your checklist, get it approved, come to you with a budget.
Is that a commissioner-driven thing?
Well, the budget comes to you, but before I would send, and I guess what I'm asking is before I would send what I'm just gonna call just a friendly reminder to everyone, if you've got a
I
grant.
want to make a motion, we authorize the county attorney to send an email to all department heads requiring a grant checklist to be submitted with a grant budget.
I'll second that.
Second by Burl. Further discussion, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Okay, so I'll take care of that. Okay, thank you.
Now, at the beginning, Jim came up here and said a bunch of good stuff about, it's working and, to yours and everybody else's credit. I do want to extend the credit to the other departments, but he failed to mention himself. And this is the opportunity for us to publicly thank him for his work with this architecture.
Yeah.
Well done, Jim.
Okay, Madam Auditor.
I, based on what he brought up to begin with in general conversation and positions and cuts and things, it was discussed to possibly reconsider at least part-time monies back to the treasurer's office. She had originally had given up the 3,000 at your guys' first work sessions. Position has been cut. She'd already been through her May process. If it's going to stay as the position being cut, please consider giving additional part-time monies to bring in for at least the tax sessions and those busier times.
Wait, so I noticed it's not, whenever this initially took place, I said, let's put it on the agenda. And was she coming or what?
I just figured it would come up under the elected officials, or when we were talking about the budgets earlier on, just like it's come up a couple other times in the other departments as far as the requests. I thought she was going to be here tonight.
Well, I think there's probably gonna be some questions.
Yeah, and just to give you, so I'm just looking at numbers real quick. When we had budget hearings, we had discussed her budget based on the cuts we made, and the scenario that she had. And we approved preliminarily $8,000 for part-time, seasonal part-time. And that was based on a certain number of hours. It was 747 for seasonal part-time. That's only about $700 off from the actual previous budget years. So we haven't really cut the part-time anyway. So I don't know if there's really any action. She may not realize it, but I don't know if there's really any action we need to take anyway or consider, because we pretty much set it to what she wanted during hearings, and that was not far off from what she had previously. You see where I'm going with that? So it might already be a kind of a solved issue that we just need to communicate to her.
You got anything else on that, Sheila? All right.
And then dormant funds, did you want to take action on that tonight? Because we have a report and.
If you have no objection to that, I do think it does still have to go to the 20th to the commissioners on one vote.
I have no objection to doing anything with this. We need to do it right away and get this into the general fund, so.
There are still pending items on the list. Sam has a few to look at. The funds that are there, the state has said if we're getting rid of them, obviously they go into the general fund. If the other funds are there, they can tell us where they want those funds moved to, if it's another fund and it belongs to them, or they need to at least spend a little bit of money out of each one of them so that they come off the dormant list.
So can we have you, so the motion can be that you certify there one that is not in the works? I mean, what?
The ones that are circled on that list are the ones that are approved to be put into the county general fund with acknowledgement by the commissioners at their meeting on the 20th.
Okay.
So moved. She said it's better than I could have said it.
Okay, seconded by Anton. Chuck's made the motion, seconded by Anton. Discussion. I hope there's more after this, so I'll call for a vote. All in favor? 6-0.
Yeah, and that auditor's one, that auditor's ineligible deduction, that's your fund to use for auditor expenses. So, from what other auditors in the state have indicated, so.
Okay, we've set the public hearing. You guys all have the dates.
What do we say in October? We got the 12th, but also
October 19th at 7 p.m.
not 19th, okay, I had the 20th.
And I appreciate you, Madam Auditor, and if you can advertise that, get that stuff out. Appreciate all the cooperation. Appreciate
a lot off our list tonight.
Council, does anybody else have anything they want to say?
Because it's
I know it's got nothing to do with us here in Owen County, but we'll tell you right now. Any government tells you that you have to take a shot, it is no longer American. You will not tell me that I have to take a shot. I will not tell you to take a shot. If you think I have to take a shot, you are no longer American. You are a communist. Take down the American flag at your house. Amen. Y'all start better seeking Jesus, because we are in the end times. Amen. And with that, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn on the floor.
Hallelujah.
There doesn't need to be a second on that.
All right. Madam Auditor, do you need anything else? Thank you.